I thought I was an only child. Then one day, I'm minding my own business, and boom, someone steps up that looks exactly like me in my hometown, and people start confusing me for this said person. Little did I know, she's my long-lost twin sister. Guys, this story is absolutely insane. Imagine being woken up by foreign police, speaking in a language you don't understand while searching your room, and them finding a lot of drugs in your room. Well, it sounds like someone's worst nightmare. But for me, it was only the beginning of the hell that I found myself in. The one time I agreed to take drugs, I was getting arrested for drug possession, and my sister was nowhere to be found. For hours, they interrogated me, asking me who I worked for, and telling me that they would set me free if I told them which gang I was dealing with. They said that they've been looking for me for so many years concerning drug trafficking. At 25 years old, I've never even touched drugs, except for the previous night. I got my phone call and tried to call my sister, but her phone did not go through. I did not even know Frank, my fiance's phone number. They did a drug test and found the drugs in my system. The country had a strict no-drug law, and on top of that, I was a foreigner. The lawyer that got me told to confess because I would get a lighter sentence. I found out that my sister was the one who paid her, but no one believed me. I was so scared, and all I wanted to do was go home. But I was also not stupid enough to just confess a crime I did not do. But they said they had evidence of me and my sister buying drugs, and people I'd never seen before in my life saying that I sold them the drugs. The lawyer threatened me, saying we would make my case worse and get me to go to prison for a long time if I don't confess. It was clear that Chantel was the one who's been doing illegal dealings, and I was taking the fall for her. I tried to argue that it was my twin, but there was nothing I had to prove it. My phone was nowhere to be found, and they had my passport. On top of that, there was no extradition treaty back to the US, so I was tried and sentenced there. I was given a 10-year sentence, but I was out in 6. You must be wondering who I am, and how it ended that my blood sister betrayed me, and why it led to the worst 15 years of my life. I've changed the names of everyone involved to protect their privacy. My name is Ruby, and I have recently turned 40 years old. I've lost nearly 15 years of my life because of my twin sister Chantel. It's going to be a long story, but I ask you to bear with me. I was always an only child with parents who were very well off. My father was a businessman, and my mother was a doctor. I was very good at school, graduated early, and went to medical school. This is where I met Frank, who later became my fiancé. I practiced medicine for several years, and during those years, my father got cancer and passed away. My mother did not take it well, and her mental health suffered. So she occasionally had to take prescription pills and was not always in her right mind. This brings us to my mother calling me and asking why I did not tell her that I had an off day. I told her she was being ridiculous and told her that I was at work. I thought she was losing it, but then I started getting people asking me what I've been doing in places like clubs, which led me to believe there was a lookalike in town. I found it funny, but I did not want to meet the girl because I did not know her. I'm a practical person and do not believe in destiny, fate, or any of that. But it came to be, the same woman came to the hospital with a stab wound, and there was so much confusion, so I had to go see her. She was the spitting image of me. I was freaked out. I immediately called my mom, telling her that I've just seen someone who looks like me. She couldn't be my sister because I was an only child, as far as I knew. My mother insisted on coming to the hospital immediately. I talked to her after treatment and found that I had no relation to her. She said that she had a mom who was overseas, and she was just trying to make a life for herself in our city. I managed to get off early, and then My mother told me a secret that she's been hiding from me. She gave birth to 2 girls. Me and Chantel, but that night, Chantel was lost. My mother did not let my father know that there was 2 of us. She had not gone for a scan, so she had no idea she was carrying twins. My mother looked for Chantel, but she was told that the admin had made a mistake, and her child had left with another woman. For those years, they tried everything they could to find her, but as the years passed, it was too difficult and put a strain on them. They decided not to tell me about her because, well, they lost all hope that we would ever find her. Chantel refused to believe it and said that we just looked the same by chance. But she had her mother, who she left where she's been staying. Even though my mother was on pills, I knew she was telling the truth. See, I've always had this feeling of something missing in my life. But when I met Chantel, I felt a strong connection. Most twins will tell you of an unexplainable bond, which was exactly what I felt, and I asked her, can we consider a DNA test? Just so we could prove if she agreed. I think it's best to tell you about her, as it will help make sense of some things later. Chantel was the opposite of me, dyed hair, revealing clothing, and did not seem to be so bright. She looked like she's not gotten the cozy life that I had. Either way, she agreed to the DNA test and agreed to stay with my mother while we waited. Once we got the proof, we would call a family meeting and get her introduced to the rest of the family. I went home immediately and told my fiancé, Frank, about my sister. We were going to get married in a few months, and we had been together for over 5 years. So I told him everything that happened in my life. Sure enough, the DNA results started, and they said she was my sister. It was not just a case of doppelgangers. I was truly overwhelmed, and I remember Chantel being emotional as well, and us going off to catch up on stuff. As for the woman who took her, she begged us not to press charges on her. She was on her deathbed, and all my twin wanted was to do, just take care of her, even though she did not have much luck making money. The hospital had made a mistake, and that other woman's real daughter had actually passed away. She was working as a waitress at a dodgy bar, which was there where she got stabbed. My mom and I both agreed that she would never go back there again. I've been raised with everything while she had a tough life. I felt so bad. I decided to put my wedding on hold for just a year. I wanted to get to know her and have her help me with arrangements. It felt so much like a part of me that's been lost was just suddenly found. Because my fiancé and I lived separately, she alternated between my house and my mother's house. And for the next year, she became a very important part of my life. I managed to get her a job managing one of my friend's stores, and she started to make her life better. The great part about finding her was that my mother finally snapped out of depression. It was almost as if a miracle happened. My sister brought the life right back to my mother, and she also helped me to experience what it's like to be a sister. She tried her hardest to follow my lifestyle, as she looked up to me as the oldest by 3 minutes. Soon, no one could tell us apart because we were obsessed with looking just like each other. We had a similar diet, workout plan, and hairdresser. It was like living out our childhood again. The only visible difference was that I had a beauty spot on my chin and she did not, which made it easier for people to tell us apart. She also grew close to Frank, who treated her just like a sister. In that year, we made up a lot of lost time, and she took over my wedding planning. Because of my work, I could not arrange it the way I wanted. About a month before my wedding, she told me that she had a surprise for me. She had saved up for an all-expense-paid trip to the country where she grew up. She wanted to see her mother, who was recovering, and show me where she grew up. My mother was not so sure about it because, well, she had things to solve with that woman. Yet she agreed because she would do anything to make Chantel happy. My sister only had one condition: that she paid for everything and for me to agree to do everything she wanted, because she thought I was a bit, quote, uptight. And to be honest, that was the best holiday I ever had. We got to visit all the local areas, eat interesting food, and meet her friends. I did not go to meet her mom because, well, I felt it would be weird, even though it was not her fault I lost my sister. She understood and did not pressure me. Another thing was that we acted as if we were 18 again, drinking most days away. I was surprised, though, when I found some drugs in her bag, but she said it's just party drugs. It's the first time she offered, but I did not take them. During this trip, I kept in touch with the rest of my family every single day. They were worried because the country was a bit dangerous, and they did not want me to suddenly go missing. 2 days before we had to go home, my sister came back to our hotel with some of those party drugs. This time, when she offered, I was more agreeable, and I took them. And the rest of the night was a blur to me. To this day, I cannot tell you what happened on that night. I was drugged. It was, however, the last night I saw my sister for the next couple of years. You know what happened next. The cops busted my door and arrested me on charges of drug trafficking. I did not have any money. My phone was left somewhere at the hotel. All I had was an ID. This piled up on the mountain of proof that I was Chantel, and I spent the next 6 years of my life in jail. Those 6 years felt like an eternity in hell, and I do not wish them on anyone. Well, maybe on her. She had lied to me that those were just party drugs. Those were some dangerous drugs, and she brought more than we used. And because, well, I was caught with them, I went to jail. This was 15 years ago. It was not easy for me to prove my innocence. The woman who they tracked down to be her mother only saw me once, and she said no pity for me. I did not know why she hated me, but I put together that she was working with Chantel. The only thing I could think of was money. My father was the richest parent, and his insurance had paid out to me and Mom. With me gone, it would not be hard for her to get my share. My sister did everything she could to make my life hell in prison. She had many connections there, and enemies as well. Some people thought I was there even though I did not speak the language that most of the inmates there spoke, which made me an easy target. For months, I was bullied and beaten up for things that I did not know. Sometimes I did not get to eat because some head honcho would want my food. Those years spent there hardened me, and with time, I learned. I made all the right friends, learned the language, and stopped being treated like a weakling. I kept out of trouble because, well, I did not want to hurt anyone or have my sentence increased. I wondered why no one had come to look for me. If my sister returned alone, then they had to have asked where I was. My mother knew me. My fiancé did as well. She could not pretend to be me if she wanted. Years spent alone with no friendly face gives a person time to think a plan. As soon as I got out, no matter how long it took, the first thing I wanted to do was teach her a lesson. She's come into my life looking innocent. I got her a job, clothed her, fed her, only for her to throw me under the bus. She robbed me of a wedding to the love of my life. I plan to tell my mother everything she's done and get her out of our lives forever. She was no sister of mine. And as luck would have it, because of good behavior, I was eligible for parole after 6 years in prison. I had appealed many times, but my lawyers tried to make sure I stayed in. Something happened to her, and I had a state lawyer, who was not paid for by my sister. I've never prayed so hard in my life, but now that I think back, that was just the beginning of the nightmare. I got out of jail, but I had nothing. I did not even have a passport so that I could get out of the country. All I had was her ID, and the one thing she forgot to steal from me, my engagement ring, that I've kept hidden for all those years. I went to the nearest pawn shop and sold it. I bargained hard, but it was enough for me to get out of the country. Because, well, of the connections I had in prison, I was able to get myself a passport and get the hell out of that country. I was so relieved that finally this nightmare was over. I did not know how I survived, but I was starting to believe in fate. I did not immediately go to expose my sister. I needed cash first. After getting a phone call, I called the bank to report a stolen credit card, but my bank said they could not help me. They thought I was fraudulent because the surname did not match. So then, after years away from my family, I decided first to go to my mom's house. When I got there, she was shocked and outraged to see me. She even slapped me. She said that I had used the family for my own gain, and then went back to my gold-digging mother. I tried my hardest to explain that I was her daughter, but she told me that she only had one daughter, who was Ruby. My mom had grown much older during my absence. She had to be losing it. But this was not the first time that someone failed to recognize me. I knew I changed. Prison does that to a person. My hair was much shorter. I was much thinner and did not look like I used to. But it wasn't that bad. And this was when I saw something that nearly knocked me off my feet. It was wedding photos. My fiancé was with me in the pictures. The only thing that was off was, well, I never got married to Frank. Chantel did. She had stolen my identity and married my husband. I did not even wait for my mother, who was calling me, because I planned to beat the life out of her. I'd learned a thing or two in prison, and to be honest, I was fuming. I went to Frank's apartment on the chance they lived there. I barged in and shouted at her to come out, and when I saw her, looking like I had 6 years ago, with the same spot I had on my chin, I was overcome by rage. Then all the power within me went out when Frank came downstairs, holding a baby, and next to him was a little girl of 5 years, who was calling Chantel her mother. This was only the beginning of the hell my twin sister put me through. Let me just say right now, that might have been one of the craziest stories I've ever read, and I'm not joking. That took an incredible turn that I just did not see coming. So, what I did was message the original poster of this and said, hey, is there an update for this, or can you tell us a little more? Guys, there's going to be a complete update for this, and it's going to be sent to me as soon as OP's done. And guess what? I'm going to release it on the channel instantly. Okay, but for now, that's it for that story. We still have 2 more stories left in today's stories. Click that subscribe button, smash that like button. Here comes story number 2. Some backstory. I've been dating my ex-fiancée Sarah for 4 years. We've been planning to get married in November 2020. But I found out at the start of this month that she cheated on me. She begged me to give her another chance, but I broke it off. The problem was that being cheated on, in my mind, is completely emasculating and, well, humiliating. So I never told anyone that was the reason we broke up. For obvious reasons, Sarah also did not tell people we broke up because she cheated. So people have blamed me for the breakup, including my mother. They just see that I dumped her right out of the blue. I've gone very strict no contact with Sarah after I discovered she cheated. Sarah has been talking with my mom and convinced her that if we could talk one more time, we would be able to reconcile. My mom has been applying hardcore pressure on me just to talk to her, but I've explained that there's no chance we will ever get back together. So tonight, I go over to my mother's place because she's hosting my family Christmas Eve. I'm there for a bit, talking with my aunts and uncles and cousins, when the doorbell rings, and I can see it's Sarah. I ask what the is going on, and my mom says she's invited Sarah so we can work this out, in the spirit of the holidays. I'm pissed now, because the only way to explain my side of the story is to tell everyone I was cheated on. Complete humiliation in front of my whole family. So, as my mom goes to the front door, I go into the bathroom. My mom starts knocking on the door, saying that I need to come out and talk to my ex like an adult. I say, duck it. I kick out the window screen, jump out the window, and then get in my car and go home. My mom called a short while ago saying she's cutting ties with me over my behavior. She's really fixated on me jumping out of a window, and that Sarah will always be like a child to her. My sister called me after to ream me out for ruining Christmas. I broke down. I told her that Sarah cheated on me, which is why I dumped her, and I did not want to see her under any circumstances. She called me a big a-hole for lying to cover for myself. Am I really in the wrong here? Absolutely not. I don't think OP's in the wrong, but I think maybe OP went at it just a little bit wrong. I know he's embarrassed to tell his friends and family, but hey, once it gets to the point where this girl's showing up at your family gatherings and you're forcing yourself to jump through a window, I think it's time to come clean and say, you know what? I'm done with this. She cheated on me, and that's exactly why I don't want to see her. And if you guys can't accept that, I don't want to accept you. That's how I would handle the situation, but let me know what you would do in the comment section below. There's one more story. Subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, here it comes. My parents divorced when I was 7, after my mom found out that Dad's been cheating on her for 5 years, with someone she considered to be her friend. The reveal of the affair came during my birthday party, which we celebrated late because Dad made up some story about an old friend dying and going to the funeral, when he was actually with her for an ultrasound, after learning she was pregnant. My mom never, quote, got over what they did to her. I think what makes it worse is 2 people betrayed her instead of 1. Because, well, if our friend's willing to hurt us like this, then we're screwed. My dad married his affair partner. They have 6 children together now. My mom has stayed away from them as much as humanly possible. She told me a long time ago that she loved me, and wanted me to be happy and loved, and not be distant from them for her. But that she would never be able to play happy families with my dad, and his wife and their kids because some hurts are too deep and painful just to move on from. When stay in place was ordered, things between my mom and dad deteriorated. After my dad asked if mom would take care of this other 6 kids into her home, so, quote, the siblings could see each other, since both he and his wife were frontline workers and had planned to send them somewhere to limit their exposure. Mom said hell no. She was pissed as hell at Dad for asking, while Dad was pissed as hell that she did not force me to go into his in-laws, just to spend time with my siblings while we weren't legally allowed to meet up with others. Things are the same now, only Mom has suffered less financially through the pandemic. After a while, my dad and his wife left their jobs when it got just too much, and their financial stability took a huge hit. My dad can't afford to throw a graduation party for me, which is fine, but he and his family are not welcoming to the one my mom's hosting. He was nagging about them missing out on celebrating with me because of my mother. I told him it was because of his affair, not my mom. That he was the one who betrayed her over and over again, disrespected her, and then expected her to act like none of that happened, so that he could look like the good guy. He told me it's been a decade, and my mom and I should be over it, and I should not have taken sides. I told him he should have kept the affair from me then, instead of letting it come out for me to hear. Guys, am I the a-hole? Before you judge that, let me also say, another element of this story is that the affair started after my mom almost died, losing my sibling. The pregnancy went badly wrong and almost took her, and did take her chance to have more kids. All the while, her husband and friend were getting together behind her back. In my opinion, this story is not the a-hole. I honestly don't know why they don't just cut him off completely. He cheated on OP's mother, then had the nerve to ask her to watch the children with the lady that she cheated on him with. Guys, Let me know what you would do in this exact scenario. I would love to hear your opinions on this. That's all the content I have for you today. I hope each and every one of you enjoyed it, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.